Right, so because I can't really upload any music at the moment, I am working on. I want to do a grooming gang song. It's quite political because what's going on in the UK at the moment, we're getting all this stuff coming out now about just how bad these grooming gangs have been. Um, and I just wanted to write a song about it because I'm just angry, I guess, and I just want to get it out there because the music industry seems to really, 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 really punish you if you are even slightly conservative, and I'm very conservative. I mean, I'm incredibly right wing because how can I not be? But yeah, I won't get into that too much. But yeah, so expect some musical content eventually. But in the short term, I have got some music content that I can do now. You're gonna have to give me a second. Um, I was listening to a cover I did, just listening to, sometimes I listen to some of my old songs and covers and stuff just to see where I can improve and shit like that. And I did a cover of the title song of this album, which is one of my favorite albums. I own this. I bought this on CD first, and then I got it on vinyl, and I also listened to it a lot on my Spotify. I listened to this whole album on Christmas Day. I went for a walk into town on Christmas. It was really quiet, and I was listening to this whole album. It's Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen. I'm not really a Bruce Springsteen fan. I can't even name you any Bruce Springsteen songs really that I like. And then, well, sorry, what I mean is, I can't name you any Bruce Springsteen songs that I like that aren't off of this album. I mean, you know, Born in the USA, and I think there's that other Bruce Springsteen song as well. It's like 69 something miles, however it was. I'm not. Oh no, that's Bryan Adams. Oh, the same with Bryan Adams. I can't really name many songs I like by him. But the only thing that I think Springsteen ever did, that in many ways was kind of seen a little bit as a throwaway album, or kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's not his most well-known work, right? He's not known for this. And that is, like I say, Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen, you know, and I've got it on vinyl. I listen to it on my iPhone, on Spotify quite a lot. I really love it. I think it's a fantastic album. I think the reason why I love it so much is because it reminds me of when I started playing music and when I started writing songs, and I was all my songs that I was writing were all on the acoustic, and they were all very sort of chords and singer-songwriter stuff. And but a lot of them were quite like folky as well. I wasn't really I was never really inspired by like Ed Sheeran or anything like that. I wasn't even that inspired by Bob Dylan. I was more inspired by although there are Bob Dylan influences on the Nebraska album, but I was more inspired by like the old country and rock and roll ballads of the 50s and stuff. And I was also very inspired by a lot of the old country and folk music of the 30s and 40s and 50s. I listened to a lot of Woody Guthrie when I was about 15, 16. I was listening to a shit ton of Guthrie and also Lead Belly and Johnny Cash. So when I was originally writing music, when I started getting good at writing music, although I was also listening to a lot of Nirvana as well. I mean, I mostly wrote grunge songs. It was mostly grunge and then sort of country folk sort of blues songs. That's always been what I've mostly written on acoustic guitars, even to this day. That's what I mostly tend to write on my acoustic guitar. I mean, I've definitely branched out more as I've gotten older and listened to more music, and also just become a more competent guitarist and a more competent musician. And now I understand how to make phrasing and all that, you know, what chords go with what. I'm getting more into using apps and stuff on my phone and sort of layering tracks over each other and creating echoes and having like multiple voice tracks at the same time. You know, I can now recognize the little things that I do on my music that are sort of unique to my songs, and I actually recognize where they all come from. And a lot of the stuff that I like to do, especially with the acoustic guitar, some of the little riffs I throw in there, or some of the sort of chord patterns, it all comes from the stuff I listen to. Like I say, it's a lot of Woody and a lot of Cash, and a lot of Hank Williams, and a lot of the old country folk blues stuff from America. And Nebraska is very much, it's like a tribute to Americana. That's what I think Nebraska is by Springsteen. It's like a tribute to, you know, the American way of life. There's a lot of tributes to New Jersey as well in there. The title track, Nebraska, is, I think he based it on a serial killings that happened back in the 50s. Kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde sort of thing. I think those killings as well were actually also inspired Natural Born Killers, which is a film that I haven't seen for a while. It's one of my mum's favourite films, one of my favourite films. Sorry, I'm showing my stomach there. I really, really love it. I think it's a fantastic album. Nebraska, if I had to pick the songs on here that are my favourite, I mean, most of them are really good, but the two that stand out to me the most is the title track and State Trooper. State Trooper is one of my favourite songs. I love State Trooper. I haven't got an acoustic guitar on me at the moment. I've got my electric. It won't sound as good though. I just love that whole like. it's just a very simple E minor sort of thing. It's sort of like just, and then it goes through like, it's just so simple. It's great. It's fantastic, you know. Mr. New Jersey Turnpike, riding on a wet night, 'neath the refinery's glow, out where those great black rivers flow. Mr. State Trooper. Yeah, it's just fantastic. I just think it's a really good song, and that's probably my standout track, the whole album. And I only got the Nebraska album about. Before then, the only song I listened to was State Trooper. That was it. I didn't know, other than knowing that song was from the Nebraska album, I hadn't listened to the Nebraska album. And then I was in HMV in about, late summer, talking like probably July or August, maybe September, and I popped in and I thought, all right, Nebraska, I'll pick it up, because I've never been a fan of Bruce Springsteen before. Okay. I went, okay, I know this album's got State Trooper on it, and I know that it's a different album. Like, it was a very different album to all the other stuff that he did. You know, it was, to my knowledge, the only album he's ever done where it's been all acoustic and all like him, and his band wasn't even involved, which is him and a recording studio, his guitar, harmonica. I mean, he did all of it. You know, he did the dubs, overlay. So I thought, okay, I quite like this. This sort of appeals to the sort of music that I've been making. So I'll listen to this, and then we'll see if anything, you know, if anything resonates, and then if maybe the influence of that album will then impact my music. By the way, FYI, it has. I've gone back to writing the old sort of acoustic stuff I used to write. I haven't recorded much yet, but I've been writing a lot, going back to my own roots. And I'm really enjoying it, because I've gotten more into sort of punk and rock and electric guitars, and, you know, the idea of having a band. And even when I play with my mates and play with some of the people, and I'm always I never really use an acoustic nowadays. I usually play with my electrics more than anything. So going back to the old ways when I had an acoustic guitar, before I had an amp and electric guitar, and before I was really getting into that stuff, it's nice. And I just listened to it, and afterwards I was just like, wow. And so then when I got my vinyl player a couple of weeks back, I thought, okay, well, what I'll do, and I got it actually the day that I got my record player, was the day that I got Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen. I also got Blue Monday. Those are the two vinyls that I picked up on the day I got my vinyl player. The first vinyl I listened to was Blue Monday, and then that was my christening for my vinyl player. It's an old, I can't remember now, but yeah. So that was that, and then about probably about a day or two. I think the next day after that, I broke out my copy of Nebraska, and it sounds better on vinyl. Don't know why, it just does. I've got it in CD and vinyl. I've listened to it on Spotify and YouTube. It just sounds better. I've listened to quite a few different recordings, and, you know, different standards of quality and different ways of listening, and I think the vinyl version is the best one for me. I just think it's just got more character, and for an album that has so much character in its DNA, you know, the lyricism. Bruce, I always thought Bruce Springsteen was kind of a cringe joke. I got to admit, I always just used to think of him just, you know, born in the US. I always just think of him sort of dad rock, you know, just this sort of. I feel sorry, because I feel bad for thinking this, no offense to Bruce Springsteen, but I always thought it was kind of an embarrassment. Even though I am a big fan of Steven Van Zandt because of his work in The Sopranos, which is where I heard State Trooper. It was in The Sopranos, it was used. Nebraska, if and I don't know, because, you know what, I should give Bruce Springsteen a chance. If anyone wants to recommend some stuff to me you think I might like based on what I'm saying about this album, please do. You know, some more introspective songs, or just more songs that, you know, even if they are the songs with him in the E Street Band, just songs that are a little bit more, that are more interesting, that I might appreciate. Please do recommend. But even if I was to go through the rest of my music life, or even like up to the day I die, whether or not I made it as a musician or I was just a music appreciator, I just, you know, like so many people are, you know, a lot of us out there, you know, we're not musicians, we just love music. And I was to go through my rest of my life, and the only thought that popped into my head was, well, the only good Bruce Springsteen album is Nebraska. That wouldn't bother me. This one album makes me respect Bruce Springsteen, and I didn't respect him before I listened to it. That's good. That's the sign of a musician who's very, very, very talented. Very talented. When you think about all the fucking stuff that Bruce has done and all the stuff he's known for, and I can listen to one of his albums, just this one album, and say that album's a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite albums. It will go down in history for me personally as one of my favorite albums. It will be in my collection for a long time to come. I won't be getting rid of my copies of Nebraska, either on CD or on vinyl, and any other copies I may get, or if there are any singles that were released, whatever. That's already enough. That's already enough to say, Bruce, I was wrong about you. You aren't an embarrassment. You are a true musician and you're a true artist, and I fucking respect the living crap out of you for that. It's a fantastic album. It's genius. Johnny 99. That's a great song. And also The Mansion on the Hill. I just, I think Johnny 99 the one that starts with, I can't do it, but he just does like, and then it goes all sort of rockabilly. His vocals on that album as well are incredible. And there's this variation as well. Like you've got the title track, which is this really melancholy, and you listen to it and you think, oh, it's going to be a nice happy song. And then you listen to the lyrics and it's, sawn off shotgun, 910 on my lap, me and her, at least we had some fun before we died. And you think to yourself, God almighty, he's talking about serial killers. That's fucking crazy. And then you get into like, I think the second track is Atlantic City, isn't it? Yeah. And you listen to that and you're just like, okay. And then like The Mansion on the Hill is the third track. Reason to Believe, actually, that's the last song. I quite like that one as well. But then you get to State Trooper, and I think it isn't until State Trooper, like Atlantic City is a little bit dark, but State Trooper is like, I think, the darkest song on that when you actually break it down and listen to it. But yet the lyrics aren't. It's probably not the darkest song lyrically. It's a guy who's driving, where he needs to go. Obviously, he's got some reason why he's worried about the police. So maybe you can infer that he's a criminal or something. But it's not like the subject matter of that song is particularly. It's a man driving where he needs to go, and he's at night and he's trying to get back to his family and all the rest of it. And there's a bit of dark, but it doesn't lyrically. It's a song that sounds dark, but when you compare the lyricism of that to even Atlantic City, where he's talking about like violence and getting in a punch up on the boardwalk, or the title track, which is literally about serial killers, real life serial killers. And if you read the story, I can't remember the guy's name, but they did it. It was in Minnesota. That it's all of that was true. Or was it Nebraska? Yeah, of course, yeah. But I think they also cross into Minnesota. I can't remember. But anyway, if you read the story of that, like that's really brutal and fucked up. And yet the lyricism of the darkest song the darkest sounding song is the one that has the lightest lyrics. And all of the songs that have the darkest lyricism have this really upbeat vibe. I mean, even I think it's Highway Patrolman, where he's talking about like being a patrol guy, and then I think it's either I can't remember if it's his brother. His brother gets into trouble and then he's got to arrest him, or his brother is the one that dies. I think it's his brother gets into trouble, so he's got to arrest. But then I think he lets his brother go across the Canada border. It's this whole like that is it's very upbeat sounding, and yet it's dark as fuck. Even Johnny 99 has some pretty dark. I mean, Johnny 99, this guy is, I think he's gone to prison because he got angry and he fired some guns and he was pissed off about his job, and then he gets sent to prison. There's all this, and again, but it's so upbeat. The darkest sounding song is not the darkest song. And I fucking love that. I love that. I don't know why. I've always really, really enjoyed songs that sound happy and upbeat, but are actually really miserable. Like, for instance, Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division, which is such a tragic sounding song. In fact, it's probably next to Atmosphere, which does kind of sound more tragic anyway, but it's probably the most tragic song Joy Division ever wrote, because it's all about, it's the most personal song, I think, when it's all about Ian Curtis's life being absolutely destroyed. His issues with his wife Debbie, his affair with Annika. But it's also like the most na 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 na. I mean, it could be a New Order song. It's got this upbeat synthetic synthesizer and this sort of like, and it's weird. And I've always loved that. And the fact that like I can't think of any songs on here that aren't really fucking dark, but they're all upbeat except for State Trooper. Which is, I think, the only song that uses like exclusively minor chords. It's A minor and E minor. That's it. It's just E minor, A minor. I think, anyway. That's why I play it. Whatever the exact chords are. Either way, it's minor chords. There's no majors in there at all. But it's not the darkest song. It's the darkest sounding song, and it has the lightest lyrics. I think that's amazing, personally. I mean, it's just my interpretation. I've listened to this album about 6 or 7 times. I usually listen to at least a couple songs off it every week, usually. I haven't listened to it since Christmas, I'll admit. I haven't listened to many tracks. But yeah, it's a fantastic album, and I really appreciate it. And, Bruce Springsteen, I get why they call him the boss now. Yeah, he is boss. He's boss just for this. Absolute legend, and an absolutely fantastic album. I've never had anything personal against Bruce Springsteen. It's always been musical. I think he seems like a really nice man. He's a lovely guy, and you can see he's happy and having a lot of fun. And I do like him. I don't agree with his politics, but who cares? There's more to life than politics, right? As a person, though, he's a nice guy. I think he's a lovely man. But I've never really respected him as a musician. But no, Nebraska was the album that really made me start to appreciate Bruce Springsteen. Take care. See you later. Have a good weekend.